Hi students, now in this lecture we will discuss about the chemical equation. What a chemical equation is and how do we write down the chemical equation. In our last video we have learned what is a chemical reaction, right? We learned that in a chemical reaction substances combine and they form the new substances, new things are being generated during a chemical reaction. So that means a process in which new substances are being formed from some starting compounds. That process is called as a chemical reaction. The starting material that we take to carry out a chemical reaction, we call them as reactants. Right? So reactants are the starting compounds in a chemical reaction, and the new substances which are being formed during a chemical change, during a chemical reaction, are called as products. So actually during a chemical reaction, reactants are converted into the products. And when we write down the reactants and the products, when we write down reactants getting converted into product, the symbolic representation becomes a chemical equation. So then what is a chemical equation? The symbolic representation of this actual change, actual chemical change which occurs in a chemical reaction is called the chemical equation. So chemical equation is a symbolic representation of an actual chemical change that occurs in a chemical reaction. Suppose we take here some reactants, nitrogen and hydrogen, two gases, nitrogen gas and hydrogen, and nitrogen is represented in terms of N2, right? The symbol, the formula of nitrogen is N2 and hydrogen is H2. Okay, when nitrogen gas reacts with the hydrogen gas, these two substances then get converted into another substance called ammonia, and ammonia has a formula of NH3. So this is basically a chemical change. Here in this chemical change, nitrogen gas, right, we can say nitrogen, the symbol is N2, the formula here is the molecular formula of nitrogen is N2, hydrogen is H2. When nitrogen gas and reacts with the hydrogen gas, what we get? We get the ammonia. Okay, so this representation is what? This is a chemical equation, and the nitrogen and hydrogen here, these are the reactants. Okay, these are the reactants, and these are the products here. Ammonia here is a product. But when we look at this reaction, we find that the number of elements, atoms, the number of atoms of nitrogen here are 2 in the reactant side, and in the product side the number of nitrogen atoms is only 1. Hydrogen here is 2, here we find 3. So in this chemical equation, number of atoms of the different elements are not balanced, are not equal. So therefore we need to balance it. In a chemical equation, number of atoms of the different elements from the reactant side must be equal to the product side. So that should not differ, right? Suppose the number of nitrogen atoms here is 2, so we should also get here the 2. So that should be the same, right? That's called as a balanced chemical equation, right? In a balanced chemical equation, number of the atoms of the different elements from the reactant side is equal to the product side. That's not different. So if you look at this balance, if you look at this equation, it's not a balanced equation. We need to balance it, right? Okay, we need to have equal number of nitrogen and hydrogen atoms from both reactant side and the product side. For example, here we have a nitrogen 2, and I can write it 2 times ammonia. Now nitrogen is balanced. 2 nitrogen here, here also the nitrogen 2. But the hydrogen atoms you got here 6, 3 into 2. 2 molecules of ammonia, 1 molecule contains 3 hydrogen atoms. So total number of hydrogen atoms from the product side is 6. But from the reactant side it's only 2. That means I am going to multiply this one by 3. Now total number of hydrogen atoms here is 6. Here also the 6. Now this is a balanced chemical equation. This is a balanced chemical equation. In a balanced chemical equation, the number of the atoms of the different elements is from the reactant side is equal to the product side. So balancing of a chemical equation is very important. We should always write down the chemical equations in a balanced way. Why a balanced chemical equation is so important? It's because that from a balanced chemical equation we get some information like we get to know in what molar ratio the reactants can combine. So here we find that 1 molecule of nitrogen can react with the 3 molecules of hydrogen to get 2 molecules of ammonia. So this equation tells us in what molar ratio we should react the nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay, it tells us, suppose if you take 1 mole of nitrogen, you need to take 3 moles of hydrogen. So for 1 mole of a nitrogen, 3 moles of hydrogen are consumed, and what you get at the end? You get 2 moles of ammonia. Okay, you can also find the weight ratio of the reactants and the products. You can also find how much of the ammonia will be formed from the given amount of reactants from the balanced chemical equation. Hope you got the concept. Thanks for watching the video. Bye for now.